And the topic for this workshop is it's a journey, not a destination. And our first speaker is Jeff G. of Marshalltown, Iowa.
I'm Jeff. I'm an addict.
Hi, Jeff.
Well, the theme for the day seems to be sleep deprivation. So this could be interesting. I think, one, thank you for asking me to do this. I think, we can all get up here and we can share that I'm just going to let it come out from my heart and let happen whatever happens. And that's what we're going to do, or that's what I'm going to do. But I'm not going to lie to you and tell you I have not been obsessing on this in my mind ever since they told me that this was going to be the topic. And it's really cool because what it has done has created a situation where I've looked at the journey. And I'm not going to lie to you, when I got clean, I had a destination, I had a plan, I had the blueprint. This is what I was going to do, and this is what I was going to do, and then this is what I was going to do. And that got me through the 12 steps, and then when I hit 90 days, I would come up with a new plan and go from there. That's not quite how it went for me. Because coming into recovery, and I guess I need to paint the picture, because who you see here in front of you today is the only thing you know. But at 28, when I got clean, actually I got clean at 27, I've got my service bag briefcase. I've got my orange key tag on there that I got at 30 days. And I've got my green one, and they're 26 plus years old. And they're some of my most prized possessions. My blue one fell off. It's inside the bag. It's old and tired too. And having, my clean date is May 7th of 88, and having 26 years clean doesn't make me different, better. It means I started sooner than a lot of people. But I was a sick, twisted, scared, uncertain, 27-year-old guy that didn't know what to do. And I didn't come by way of prison. When I went to treatment, I told one of the most important lies in my life. Because they're like, well, what's your force? What made you do this? And I don't know. I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was tired of hurting. I was tired of disappointing everybody. I was tired of being so screwed up and not knowing what was going on. Well, did you think about suicide? Don't we all? Did you plan suicide? No, I didn't. I didn't want to kill myself. I just wanted to die. Okay? Suicide was too scary. If I could disappear, disappearing would be really awesome. It's like, I'm waiting, and I wouldn't disappear. I couldn't get out of my life. But all I know is I didn't want to be me, because me wasn't okay. So we've all got that, and I paint that picture because that's where I started. And along the way, along the journey, Grateful Dead says, what a long, strange trip it's been. Yeah. Whoa, buddy. This is not my plan. Because I was doing construction work and stuff, so I was going to have my own company, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. I was just going to be really awesome, okay? And I was going to be a counselor. And I was going to save all sorts of people. And I was going to get laid whenever I want to, because I am that powerful. Thank God that didn't work out. But that plan, it tricked me, because my plan was not to come in and stay clean. I don't know. And I traveled all around because, when we got clean, we had like 1 or 2 NA meetings that were in town. And if you wanted to go to 90 meetings, you went to other programs, you traveled out of town, and they didn't take your driver's license every time you farted back then. We still all had licenses, or didn't matter that much if we didn't. But I didn't travel all over looking for recovery. I'll just be honest, I was hoping to get laid, okay? I was going someplace where they didn't know me because there was new prospects there. And what happened along the way was a whole lot more recovery than sex. It wasn't for lack of trying. I just wasn't very comfortable with that. I wanted to disappear. I grew up wishing I could be invisible. Look at me, okay? I can't even freaking hide. You give me a whole forest full of trees and it's gonna, Jeff, we can see you around the tree, okay? So disappearing was not my strong skill, but I got really good at this. Okay, yeah, exactly. That was my goal. Because when I went to the wall and I stood and I watched everybody else, then I knew who I was supposed to be. And so I could come off the wall and I could be one of you because I had observed very carefully how you laughed, how you walked, how you talked, what you said. And I knew what I needed to be. So I didn't have a clue who I was when I got clean. And that's the really cool part about the journey, okay? That discovery part. And I found some things about me that I don't like, okay? And most of the time at this point in my recovery, those things about me that I don't like, I don't have to take them out and play with them. But they're still available because they're part of me. Every now and then I grab a hold of them because I'm scared. That's my default setting, Go to the default setting, sick and twisted or something. My comfort zone is making you laugh because if I can keep you laughing, I'm in control. Right. I don't see that as a bad thing. I can live with that. But I've learned to get real in conjunction with that. Where I come from, just so you understand, and I stand up here in my bibs, okay? My buddy bought some bibs a couple years ago, and I hadn't worn bibs for years, and it's like, dude, I want that. And I went out and I bought me a couple pair of bibs. Now it's what I wear most often. Because in my mind, well, one, check out all these pockets, and I got all my stuff, okay? Easy access, oh no. It's a different workshop. No, they're really comfortable for fat guys. But there's another reason that I wear them. And to me, I've earned them, okay? I've earned these. And that doesn't have to make sense just yet. But see, I come from a family, and my problems are not my family's fault. But we don't get here without being affected by the shit that our family brings to the table, all right? And I come from a sick family. The men in the family thought women were for beating on and that kids were sex toys. And the women in the family thought men were shit, and the men in the family proved it. So growing up in my family early on because my mom, I guess, divorced my father, but being a man in my family was not a good thing, okay? And at the time when I got clean, we were all embracing your inner child and all the healing energies and all this shit, okay? And it was really cool. It's a big part of my recovery. Because I did some visualization, And in this visualization exercise, I wound up picturing myself with the family standing on this balcony, and it was very vivid, okay? And hollering at my kids that were like down in the valley, and this was not, I'm in Iowa, we don't have a valley, okay? And so that was really weird, and I thought, whatever. And I also went and I saw a seer. My mother paid for me to have my fortune told, not by a charlatan, freak boardwalk sort of thing, but this lady was a true professional. And she said, you're going to be very important in your son's life. I had walked out of my son's life for my addiction. And she said, you also already know the person you're going to spend your life with. I wasn't interested in the woman I was hanging out with. I told her one time, someday I'll probably get married and it'll probably be somebody just like you, but it's not you. That was 25 years ago. She won't go away. And she points out that logic to me on a regular basis. You're going to marry someone just like me, but not me. There is nobody else like me. and that's really fortunate because she came to be my best friend, and we've spent most of our recovery together. Try to get back on track. The addict mind doesn't travel in a straight line, right? I mean, it might travel in 77 straight lines this way, but it rarely just goes linear. And when I hear speakers that are nervous about speaking and they try to share linear and start here and end here, they get really freaked out and uncomfortable, and everybody's like... So when I bounce all over the place, I might get lost every now and then. And if I get lost, somebody raise their hand and tell me to go back to this point because, hey, you left this part off. But normally what I find is as long as I share like that, y'all are with me. Okay? And I have no idea about the time. So somebody's going to have to tell me when I'm supposed to shut up. And I'll ignore you. Because that's what I do. I get told to shut up. I'm starting to think my name is Fuck You, Jeff. I get that a lot. Have you thought about Fuck You, Jeff? Well, yes. Okay, where was I? So, okay, this is the family that I come from. And I did this visualization. Oh, and I had my fortune told, and okay, and I shared all that. And so all these things they said were, okay, this is not where I'm going, because that wasn't my plan. Remember, I had my plan. And so I met this woman, and we did what we do, early in recovery, and it was all meaningful and stuff. And somehow we became friends. And my sponsor told me at the time, he said, why don't you try something different? Because we just, that thing. He said, why don't you try something different? Don't sleep together. What the fuck are you talking about? He had other ideas too that were really ridiculous. He told me, every day do something nice and don't get caught. What's the point? If you don't get caught, if you don't get to point out to somebody what you did, why would you do anything nice? Okay? But those things stuck with me, and they become part of my story, part of my journey. Oh, we're going to bounce over here. Because I'm focused on this whole topic this weekend, and I keep hearing people share about this. Like there's some friends that a girl got dropped off last night, and she was suffering, and she jumped out of the car on the freeway, and she was being beat up by, and they talked to her for a while, and they planted a seed. Okay, and I listened to people talk this weekend, and it's like, remember this. Remember, you don't have to remember the details of the event, but remember that feeling. Remember that feeling, because that's part of your story. And my recovery is a collection of those feelings, of those moments, of those stories. And there's so many of them that when I get up and I speak, I never know which one we're going to include. But that's what makes it worth it. And some of them suck, right? Some of them hurt like crazy. Okay, one of the things I wanted to accomplish today is to plant a seed in your mind and have everybody think about, because I heard a speaker share one time, and he said, you know, if I had gotten high after 60 days, this is what I would have missed, okay? I went and celebrated my 90 days back to the treatment center where I got clean, and I listened to a guy share his life story. Started in a concentration camp and ended up in recovery. And I had been on a pity party earlier that day. If I hadn't hit 90 days, I would have missed that story, okay? That's kind of an example. So you go down the road, and we raised a child in recovery. I have 3 sons. One was raised by my wife's grandma, one was raised by my wife, and one was raised by us. And I thought, Sherry and I both thought, he wouldn't have to deal with his addiction because he grew up in recovery, and our recovery would keep him safe. Shit. If you hope that's going to work, maybe it will. It didn't for us. But the cool thing is, throughout his addiction, he never forgot about us. He never forgot that he can come home. He always knew that the door was open, and you can come home, but you do not bring dope into my house. Okay? You're welcome to come home and detox anytime. And as much as I wanted to kick his ass, we just kept the door open and we loved him. I told him from the time they hit 13, anytime you're partying, and you will, and you need me to come get you, I'll come get you. No questions asked. I had to do that about 4 or 5 different times. And I still had the scars on my tongue where I didn't ask the questions because I promised him that. I'm a good dad, okay? I'm a really good dad. And those things that make me a good dad were learned here. And they started with 3 simple concepts: honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. With these, we're well on our way. That ain't no shit. You know, not only are we well on our way, but if we ever drop them, we're screwed. If we ever go out into today without one of the 3, the journey could end. In recovery, I became a good son, a good brother, a good dad. Two years ago, I got a call. I started back to school in 2010, and my plan, once again, I was going to go to college. I was going to get my degree in computers because construction is killing me and leaves scars and sores and screwed up back and everything else. And in that construction, look at me. Do I look like a doll maker? Okay, that's what we do for a living. My wife's a doll artist. I make molds and stuff. That was not part of my plan my first year in recovery. You know, I didn't get clean, get laid, and say, someday I'm going to be a doll maker. But guess what? It's part of my journey. It's part of my story. It's part of what's fed us. That has taken me to New Orleans in recovery, Washington, San Francisco, Texas. It's taken my wife, who doesn't like to travel, to Australia, Mexico, and Canada. I'm not pissed about that, though, because I had to stay home. She's in Texas right now, suffering through 60-some degrees. I normally don't text during a meeting, but I had to send her a text before I got up here just to tell her I love her, because she's become a very big foundation for me. And I needed that connection, because that's what my recovery is all about. It's connections with people that I never could have before. Because in active addiction, even growing up, and I don't know, I knew when I was a kid that I didn't belong anyplace. I could go over here with this group and we could la la la, and I could go over here with the jocks and we could la la la. but I never fit in. You know, I spent my life in kind of a glass bubble traveling through where I could hear, see, but never feel being part of that thing. I didn't belong anyplace until I got high. I belong there.
Yeah.
That was pretty comfortable because I didn't feel anything. So anyhow, my active addiction was what it was. My recovery created who I am. I went back to school. I'm going to be in computer networking. I graduated in May. I started sending out resumes. I had a few interviews. I graduated with honors. I'm smart. I barely made it through high school, but I'm smart. There's not too many stupid addicts. I used to say there are no stupid addicts, but I've changed that over the last few years. I've met a few people that have forced me to reevaluate that position. In that, I got a few interviews and then graduated in May, and then in August I got a call from my mom, and she said, "Would you come in and see me?" I was like, "What's going on?" She said, "Come see me." And it's like, okay, my mom is a fucking iron woman, all right? She is tough. She's a nurse and a nursing instructor, and they found spots on her lungs and liver and stuff, and as it turns out, she was diagnosed with cancer. Untreatable, rapid, and fatal. The doctor told her, "You won't see Christmas without chemo." So she made the decision to put herself through chemo so she didn't have to put the family through her death at Christmas time. That's the kind of woman she was. And I made the decision to stop sending out resumes and to stop doing interviews and to take my mom and take care of her. And I told her, I said, at the very end, we're all going to die alone, but until that time, I'm here to make sure you know you're not alone. And my wife and my kids all said, "Is there anything we need to do to take care of Mom?" And they all called, "Dad, are you doing okay?" And they all said, "You go do what you got to do," and I did. And I got the full support of my family. And in that time, my son's got his career started because he went back to school and got his degree. He went back to school first. He was going to go to ITT for construction technology. And I said, "Matt, why?" He said, "Because I have experience." I said, "Challenge yourself. Don't bore yourself." So he went to computer networking. What do you think inspired me to go into computer networking? My son. Okay? So anyhow, he's been there. And so if I had relapsed with 22 years or whatever, my mom would have been alone when she died. Because my sister, who brought me into recovery, that said, "Oh, we'll tough it up and we'll be there for Mom," she couldn't stay clean anymore. She had 9 years at one point, and then she couldn't stay clean anymore because she let the family that she comes from, the victimization from Grandpa and all this other shit, remember, men are shit in my family, she let that control her life. And she could never let go. She remained a victim for the rest of her life. And it killed her. She OD'd in June after my mom died in December because she couldn't handle it. But before she did, when she said she was going to come take care of Mom, when she was going to sit at hospice with Mom, she went in the bathroom and she got high while she was there taking care of Mom. That's addiction. She raided the kitchen because she had the munchies. She did this with her granddaughter. Okay? That's addiction. That's some powerful, scary shit. And yes, I still have resentments. I'm still angry. But most of all, I'm grateful that when my mom needed to walk through what she had to walk through, I was there. It is one of the most beautiful things I have ever got to do. If I hadn't stayed clean for 24 years, I would have missed that. Okay? That's part of my journey. That's part of it that sucked. I didn't cry about it much until the next Christmas when I was getting in the shower, and normally I would be getting ready to go to Mom's house for Christmas Eve, and I broke down in the shower and I cried like a baby till the water ran cold. And I smile all the time because she's still here. Okay, she helped create this monster, and I love it. And okay, so then I got to go to my son's graduation too. And if I hadn't stayed clean for 22 years, I would have missed that. And if I hadn't stayed clean, 60, Rihanna was born, she's 10, so it would have been 60. Yeah, if I hadn't stayed clean for 14 years, I would have missed the birth of my first grandchild. Okay? And when I held my granddaughter for the first time, I got really fucking pissed off because I felt something that I had never felt before, as a dad, that I had never felt before. And I wondered, how in the hell can any grandpa molest their grandchildren? How can they do that? How can a parent do that? And I was really angry. And I swore that if anybody hurt this little girl, I was going to go to prison in recovery. You know, and that's how I felt. Now I have 10 grandchildren, okay? Some of my favorite people, my very favorite people. That's where the bibs come in. I've earned these son of a bitches, you know what? Some of my favorite people call me grandpa, okay? I didn't want to be a grandpa. Grandpas are nasty. I didn't want to be a dad. Men are shit. My son told me when he got his job, you know what, Dad, you're the reason I got this job because everything, all my values, you taught me. You raised me. You created the man that I am today. That's why. And he's got a company car and a credit card and now a bachelor's degree and he's tearing shit up. That's my journey. That's what I've been able to do with the stuff that I learned in these rooms. You know? If I hadn't got a 60-day tag, I would have missed this shit. Right? My grandchildren sit in my lap when I'm in my recliner. And they fight getting up in Grandpa's lap when they're there. Because there's none of them can resist the urge to fall asleep. And when everybody else has tried to put the babies to sleep, even my grandson who was scared of me, they all tried to put him to sleep and he wouldn't go to sleep. And I said, let me try. He wouldn't even let me hold him prior to that. I held him, he went to sleep. You know why? Because they feel safe. Because they feel loved. Because they feel calm. That's cool. I love being grandpa. I had a guy come up to me at Region last weekend and he come up to me and he grabbed me. He said, my grandpa wore these every day of his life. And when we buried him, they made the decision to put him in a suit, a three-piece suit, and it was just wrong. And he got teary. Do you know what that meant to me? Now, the next phase of my journey is that I get to follow in my son's footsteps. He's got a good job with Key Cooperative. They need an intern. He got a hold of me. He said, we need you to fill out the application, do all the paperwork. I'm waiting for them to call me at this point because I get to be the intern. My son, who I raised based on the values that you guys gave me, is leading the path because I sure as hell didn't want my kids to follow in my footsteps. But I am absolutely honored to be able to follow in theirs. This program is just incredible. Just before I shut up, I have to share this. The other couple weeks ago, I went down to Des Moines and I took my brother into the hospital. He was having surgery, and Mom would have done that. And when I finally talked to him, I said, Mike, why didn't you call me? He said, I didn't want to bother you. He said, but I've got nobody to be there. And he said, you know, it just dawned on me a couple days ago that the person that would always be there for me when I did this kind of stuff, because he's had a lot of surgeries, he said, Mom would always be there. And I said, Mike, That's because I got Mom's car. I get to drive Mom's car. I kept it because I helped her pick it up. I said, Mike, I'll come pick you up. I'll take you in. I'll stay there for. Okay. So I'm on my way home from his surgery. Everything went well. And it was really awesome to be able to do that because I'm a good brother too. So I'm on my way home. It's dark, and I see a falling star. It's just right over my house almost. And this falling star, it's one of those that just goes. Most of the time they go shoo. This one goes. That's like, wow, watch the road. Wow. And it's that thing that runs through her head, wish upon a falling star, I'm still a kid. And so it's like, okay, I got a freebie, I got a freebie here. I get to make a free wish. And all I could come up with for my wish, and it's like, here, whatever you want, like a magic genie. Whatever you want, Jeff, wish for it. Dear God, please continue to take care of us. That's all I could wish for. That's so fucking lame, it's awesome. That was my wish. That's my journey. I love y'all. Thanks for letting me share it.
All right, I'd like to introduce our second speaker from Lincoln, Nebraska, Tammy W. Woo!